Hey y'all, welcome back to the Don't Mom Alone podcast. I'm your host, Heather McFadden, and this is the place where I get to walk alongside you and connect you with people and resources so you know that you don't mom alone. And in this episode number 507, I'm welcoming back to the show my dear friend, Chrystal Evans Hurst.
And my mother would always say, you want your children to experience your overflow. Well, you have no overflow if you never go digging for what's inside. So knowing that you doing that is not just about you. It's actually a gift to your children, because each one of your children is going to pick up on something that you dished out. And they all won't connect with everything, but they'll connect with something. And they can only do that if you have it to give.
Chrystal is a busy lady. She's a podcaster, author, speaker, mom to 5, grandma, a daughter of Tony Evans, sister to Priscilla Schreier. But to me, she's my friend and such a good one. She is coming on here to share some of her journey of remembering her purpose, getting unstuck, and she's going to help you do the same if you're finding yourself in a season where you're just kind of lost in motherhood. She's going to give us this tip to pay attention and ways to do that. I also pick her brain on creating the community that you long for. She does such a good job with that, with her sister circle and inner circle. That's at the end of this episode, so make sure you stick around for that. But lots of great info from her new book, 100 Days to Discovering the Gift of You. So let's get right to it. Here we go. Chrystal! Oh my goodness, y'all don't even know I haven't seen Chrystal in person in such a long time. Such a dear friend, been on the show many times before. Welcome back to the Don't Mom Alone podcast.
Hey girl, I know our podcasts are our excuses to have a friend conversation, and then we have to hurry up through the friend conversation so we can get to the recording of the podcast.
It's like, but it's just so fun to get to talk to you and learn from you. And if y'all haven't heard Chrystal on the show before, because sometimes these episodes get so buried, I get it. Like, you're not going to scroll for days, but we've all linked to them in the show notes if you haven't. Chrystal, could you give everyone just a little summary? I want to have a conversation today for the mom who's maybe lost her purpose or maybe lost herself in motherhood. And I feel like you can speak to this from your own journey. Motherhood started earlier than you expected. And also, you still kept going, you know? So give us a little quick summary of that part of your story and where you are now.
Well, I was a mom at 19, a single mom in college. And then it was she and I. That child is now 33 for
With so
10
many children.
years. She has her own 5 to add to my own 5. I kept going and add 4 more. She was 12 when my husband and I, or 11, something like that, when my husband and I added the gift of girls to our wedding, because he brought one too. So we started off with 2 girls and we added 3 boys after that. So my kids are 33, 29, 21. There's that gap. 19 and 16. So I only have 1 kid left at home. I've homeschooled all these years. And this year, that last one went to school and I don't know what to do with myself. But I've been a mom as long as I've been an adult, and I have loved it, enjoyed it. But I also know what it is to lose myself in the wonderful middle of it.
Yeah. And you say you don't know what to do with yourself, but I know that's not true.
Well, I mean, I stumbled into some things, but a part of the stumble was the discovery process of me going, I've got to figure something out. I got to figure something out. I got to figure out what I want to do. I got to figure out what I need to do. I got to figure out who I am so that I'm doing the things that I actually love. So it was very messy, very unplanned, very unscripted, but I did figure some things out of not knowing, for sure.
When you were in college, and I know you ended up being an accountant, right?
Technically. I majored in it and then quit my first job almost as soon as I started. But yes.
Because that's what the question was going to be. Did you choose accounting because it's that was the sexy job and you're closer I am to the money, the more money I make, I need to make money. This is not for love, but for money job. Or did you think, this is me. I love numbers and I want to do this?
So no, I wasn't actually thinking about money. I was thinking about just being able to have a solid job.
Yeah.
Just I knew I could probably get a job doing that. And I actually just liked my accounting class. I was like, I liked the fact that
Yeah.
I got an answer, and I started out in marketing and took a psychology class as a part of that, and it felt very woo for me. And then I went and took an accounting class, and I was like, "Oh, there was an answer." I like that. I realized in my 3rd year that I actually liked finance more, but I
Uh,
was on a 4-year scholarship, and that would have added a semester, and I was like, "No way am I doing that." So I got out with accounting, quit that job, and ended up in finance, found a job in finance, and stayed there for the first 10 years, of my adult life while I was single parenting and all that jazz.
so you found yourself even then, like, you're like, "Wait, no, this doesn't fit."
It doesn't fit. I think I always felt free and capable of figuring it out. I
Hmm.
also had to stumble through the frustration and the overwhelm of I hate this. I
Yeah.
think just coming from a ministry family, I have never really separated work and
Mm,
purpose. So I
mm.
think that was like a just a realization, like people go to work every day and they do a job that even if they don't hate it, they may not love it. I wanted to love my job. And they may only do that because it funds the life that allows them to do the things that they love. I was like, people actually live like that. Like you do the job. And of course, like Paul was a tent maker. So he made the tents and then he had the ministry. But that's not what I grew up with. I grew up seeing work and purpose and passion collide. And I was frustrated when I couldn't find that. So that was a part of the stumbling process is I knew that I was looking for collision in the best way. And when it didn't happen, I was like, oh no, I'm not getting stuck here. That was kind of my mindset.
You were willing to pursue it, and you never felt pressure. Like you said, you had the freedom, so your parents even gave you that freedom. They didn't say, "Okay, now you need to be in ministry because this is what we do."
Oh no.
Evans do
Mm-mm.
ministry, which
No.
actually all of you are doing now, right?
Maybe that's how you do it. I don't
You
know.
just give
I
them the
mean,
freedom, and then they choose it anyway.
right. Well, I think they did require like there was no question about us going to church. There was
Mm,
no question about us serving in church as a
okay.
matter of this is what you do. You don't just come and sit. But was there any pressure to make ministry a vocation? No. My
Yeah.
dad never talked to me about seminary. He never he now I will say he did when we were looking at colleges put Moody in the like he offered that to me as like a consider and I was like, "No, I don't wanna do that." But there was no pressure.
Mm,
In fact, my mother then said, "Tony, she's not interested in that. Don't try to make it a thing." So I it's not that it wasn't there just wasn't pressure with it.
yeah. Okay, so you said you figured all this out. You figured out how to find purpose, and I know you coach women.
Yes.
If this woman's sitting here right now and maybe she had her purpose and then it's got all muddled with motherhood and she's maybe just wait till teen years when you're like, "Oh, I
It's
shouldn't have found
them. It's not me.
is I maybe shouldn't have found my purpose in motherhood." Maybe. Um so like guide her. Like what
Yeah,
have you discovered and what would be a first step for her not feeling stuck and confused and
yeah.
unfulfilled?
Well, the simplest way to put whatever I'm gonna say, and however a woman could do this, is you just have to pay attention.
Hmm.
Paying attention looks like journaling. Paying attention looks like therapy. Paying attention looks like coffee with a friend. Paying attention looks like telling your husband, I need a night off so I can do something I want to do. Even if you have to sit there and struggle to figure out, what the heck do I want to do? Paying attention looks like reading. It looks like discovery. It looks like taking classes. So I don't want anyone to feel pigeoned with whatever I'm about to say next as a way you can do it because it's not the only way. What this looked like when I was on that first job that I hated, it looked like, and I don't know where I got this from, but I was like, I got to figure out what I'm supposed to do. And I did believe that whatever I was supposed to do in work, that it was possible for it to collide with me, who I am. And so I made a list of my strengths and my weaknesses, what I loved and what I didn't like. And I literally, I mean, when I look back at this, I'm so appalled. But when I was sitting with the partner at the accounting firm, because I was like, I don't think I can make it. They pulled me off the job. They were like, well, maybe you just need a minute to kind of think some things through. Here are some little projects you can work on while we kind of figure out what comes next. So I had a meeting scheduled with the partner, and I brought that piece of paper, and I didn't have an answer. I just presented it to him, right? I'm 22, and I presented it to him, and I said, well, I did some personal inventory about like what I'm wired to enjoy, what I'm good at, and what I don't like, and and I'm sharing this with you because maybe you can help me figure out. Like, he was my career counselor. He was so kind, so kind. He
Oh,
reared back in his chair. He crossed his leg over. He looked at the paper. He applauded me for doing that work. He said, it's really good that you've taken the time to do this. And he said, but here's what we do. And it looks like what you have on this paper doesn't align with what we do. And then I said, well, because I'm thinking, oh no, this means I'm not going to have a job. um, I was like, I feel where this is going.
you're like, shoot,
And
I just backed myself right in
I
a
just
corner.
backed my right. And so then he
Mhm.
says, maybe, we need to probably look for something else. And I said, well, maybe if I have another couple of weeks, because at this point, I've been just floating getting paid for 30 days, right? Maybe if I have another couple of weeks to really look and make sure there's nothing here, or maybe he said, well, Chrystal, he said, you're bright. He said, I know you're going to figure it out. But, after a month of being here, if we haven't found it, this probably just isn't the place. But when I tell you, I still have that piece of paper. It is, I can't remember the exact day, but it is June of 1996. I still have it dated. And I still look at that paper, and most of the things that I wrote on that paper are still true. So, me in
Mm,
desperation doing the work to just say, what do I know about me? Now, things have gotten more refined, I've gotten more clarity, but on that paper, I was not wrong. And that job, I left it. And I remember adding up, what do I have to make? So I went and did some temp work, and then I found some people who needed transcription. And in my 20s, I was piecemealing together from like one temp job and two or three other jobs, entrepreneurship. I had a company, a DBA called KB Services, because my daughter's name is Karis Brianna. And what was it? Anything that you'll pay me for. Um, my mother and my father celebrated 25 years, and I was like, well, it's a Word document. I'll make your bookmark for your, and she was so sweet to put KB Services on the back of their 25th anniversary. So back then, I'm not a designer, but I was designing back then. I was not a person who was laying out projects, but I was doing that in Word, you know what I'm saying? Like clip art. And so when I look back in a very rudimentary way, paying attention was a key that unlocked so many other iterations of that same thing in my life. So now, you know, I can't believe it was 7 years ago, 8 years ago, almost, that I wrote She's Still There, where I talked about, because women kept asking me, so how did you get back on top of your life after stumbling into single parenthood, hating your job? And I wrote about that. And it's comprehensively written about in there. And I talked about what does it look like to gain a new perspective on your life. And I share that story. Since
mm,
then, people haven't quit asking me, so how do I do it? Give me questions, but how do I figure out my way to do that professionally? And so I have another book that's out. It's called 100 Days to Discovering the Gift of You. And it literally is 100 days of questions, because apparently I didn't put enough questions and She's Still There. I was just trying to like get
yeah.
everybody going. And what I'm realizing is some of us need scripts. And so
Mhm.
over the years, I've just continued to develop a script. So I think any woman can use any tool that will help pull out of her, what do I know about me? And then all you do from there is honor what you discover.
Mm,
That's it. Honor what you discover. Take the class, take the trip, watch the YouTube video, do it with friends, take some time off, hire the sitter, do it with your husband, go to therapy. It just, as long as you are committed, even if you don't know where you're going, to do the work of cultivating you,
mm,
God really works all things together true for the good of those who love God. And when you get to the point where you can go, man, I can see when I look back what was on that paper and what God was doing with it, then you realize it wasn't even about the journey or the destination. It was about the journey the whole time. So we just have to settle in to the process of the things you don't know and the answers you don't have to the questions. Because what I can tell you is, gosh, 25 years ago, this was not on my radar. I was desperately just writing down anything that I could know about myself. But did I reference that piece of paper from 1996 to say, what questions was I asking myself when I put this together? Yes. So this is great, but this is just a tool that has come from years of me being willing to go on a hunt and choose to believe that it's a little bit of a treasure hunt. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to find. If I find something, I may not even know how to use it, but that's okay. I'm going to put it in my pocket and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out later. I mean, when I was homeschooling my daughter, accidentally, I stumbled into that too. Two things. I am looking at right now behind my camera a Minolta 35 millimeter film camera because that was my first camera
Oh,
that now when I'm sitting here with you, I'm my own tech person. I've done all of my own interviews over the years, lugging camera things with me. I didn't know when we were taking a photography class together that that was going to tool me for a podcast later.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know that. And I didn't know that when I was teaching her writing and being like tiger mom with grammar. It's terrible that my daughter in her first book would dedicate it to me for
Oh.
being the grammar Nazi that would give her a love for writing. But what I
Mm.
was doing was teaching a homeschool class with writing so that I could afford for her to take other homeschool classes. But in the process, I learned a modality for teaching writing. And I didn't know then that I would have coaching things for writers. Like, I just
You
think
won't know. Yeah, you
you
don't know
won't
where it's
know.
going.
You won't know.
I don't know about y'all, but some days I am just throwing on a little bit of makeup, heading out the door, and I'm pretty much home all day, not seeing a lot of people. Other days, I've got interviews and lunches or important meetings, and I got to do the full face glam. What I'm thankful for is I have connected with this unicorn of makeup products that makes either of those looks super easy. It's called Thrive Cosmetics. And let me tell you why it is the unicorn. One, it's 100% vegan, cruelty-free products, clean, skin-loving, high-performing. That's key. A lot of clean products I find do not stay on. They do not last. They are not up to standard. But these products, thousands of 5-star reviews. And they give back. For every product that you purchase, Thrive Cosmetics donates products and funds to help communities thrive, whether it's those who are walking through cancer treatment or coming out of domestic violence. Thrive is helping support so many different people. Now, let me tell you about some of my favorite products. One, their liquid lash extensions mascara. You've heard me talk about it a ton. It has this flake-free tubing formula, so it stays on all day and comes off easily when I need to. But I want to spend more time talking about their Brilliant Eye Brightener. They sent me a bunch of shades, and it has been so fun to play around with them. They even sent a little primer that I can put on my eyelid and then layer these highlighter sticks, these like little eyeshadow sticks on my eye and create whether I want maybe a lighter shade for the daytime or I want to go a little smoky eye or metallic for the night. It's super fun, foolproof, and easy to apply and blend with 27 different shades. Definitely go check those out. So Thrive Cosmetics is luxury beauty that gives back. And right now you can get an exclusive 20% off your first order at thrivecosmetics.com/DMA. That's Thrive Cosmetics, CAUSEMETICS.com/DMA for 20% off your first order. I feel like even in your story, it leads into my next question. For the mom who's sitting there feeling guilt, like it's wrong to try to discover herself or it's wrong to ask these questions because it should be all about the kids. I see, and I have the gift of perspective. You have the gift of perspective. You have an
Yes.
adult who now you can be like, I can see where that wasn't me thinking about myself and being selfish, and she's so
Yeah,
mad at me that I ignored her. This was like actually a gift to her. And this is
correct.
but there's that moment, that tension of like, no, it should be all about the kids and any time for me is wrong. The guilt is it's wrong to think about me.
I remember that, and I remember my mother, thank God for my mother, just
We love her.
reminding me, encouraging me, "It's okay, Crystal. They'll be fine." She would say, and I'd be like, "But no, you don't understand. Nobody's gonna do it. He can't eat this food texture. It's writing it down is too much. You know what I mean? Like the schedule. My husband's not home." I mean, I just would be in such a huff, and she would say, "They'll be fine, Crystal. I promise you, they'll be fine. The things you're stressing out, they're not even gonna remember." Here's what I can also see that will, I think, help a mom more who's feeling that guilt. Your discovery of you is a gift to your children,
Mm,
not only because it allows you to operate from a full cup, but also because along the way, whatever you're scooping out for you, you're giving them. My daughter is a writer. My daughter is a photographer. I mean, there are so many things that I can see for each of my children that have come because I was doing what I loved. I just put on Instagram this morning as we're recording a reel at 10 times the speed of me recording doing a puzzle with my boys. My boys one day are going to probably, at least one of them, I believe, will do puzzles with their children because they're going to remember we did puzzles with our mom. And of course, now they hate it, but I'm doing what I love.
and inviting them.
That's
Yeah.
correct. And my mother would always say, you want your children to experience your overflow. Well, you
Mm,
have no overflow if you never go digging for what's inside. So,
mm,
knowing that you doing that is not just about you, it's actually a gift to your children because each one of your children is going to pick up on something that you dished out. And they all won't connect with everything, but they'll connect with something. And they can only do that if you have it to give.
I have a tiny example, and it also goes along with your mom because I know she loves sunsets.
Yeah.
And the other day, yesterday, what is life? Yesterday, um, Bruce and my youngest were leaving the house, and my youngest said, "Oh, look at the sky. It's so beautiful." That comes from years of me constantly pointing out the sky.
Yes.
This is the gift that we give. We notice beauty so that they notice beauty. We
Yes.
notice music. Whatever your thing is, don't stop loving it. If you love 50s rock, play 50s rock because who knows if your child is going to start writing music and incorporate 50s rock for his generation. I'm just saying,
That's
like,
right.
I see moms so burnt out and overwhelmed and miserable when I'm out and about and at dinner, and I'm thinking, you are missing that you have a gift to give your kids because you've
Yes.
forgotten what you love. And your
Yeah.
husband doesn't get the gift of seeing you on fire. And it doesn't have to be a job. It doesn't have to be
No.
I mean, a lot of us don't have a choice on whether we work or not, but like, I don't know. Just if anything you hear today, listen to Crystal and I. Your mentors.
We have perspective.
We have
We have
perspective.
perspective on the seasons we've gone past. And we're developing the perspective on the seasons
No,
we're
we don't.
in.
No, and we won't say that your kids are going to turn out perfect. That's not the
No, we're
goal.
not gonna say that.
No,
That's
we're not
not the
going to say
goal.
that. No. But
Yeah.
yeah, notice. I love that. Like, pay attention. What fires you up? Like, those kinds of
Yes.
things. I think pay
Yes.
attention to what other people tell you. Like, I loved how
That's
you
right.
said ask people,
Yes. Yeah.
because sometimes I can even get stuck. It's hard for me to
Yeah.
dream
You
right
don't
now in
see.
this season. Yeah.
You don't see. But people who have been around you for any length of time, they'll be able to say, "Oh, you always get excited when you talk about this," or "You always light up when you talk about this," or "You're really good at that."
Mm.
And, sometimes I know we get sick of people telling us we're good at something. It's like, ugh, I'm tired of people telling me that because what's common to you is not common to everyone else. And God will use it. Like finance is a part of my experience, but it's not what I'm doing right now. But it sure does help running a business. It sure does help when I sit with my accountant and I know what they're talking about. So it doesn't mean that just because you commit to something in a certain season, that it will show up in the same flavor and taste the same way in another season. I just think, Matthew 25 talks about the master and the story of the talents. And
Mm,
all we're supposed to do is take what we have and use it.
mm,
We need to worry about how he wants to multiply it, or how he wants it to bless somebody else, or how we're going to meet someone's need, or how that's going to meet our own need. He's just like, if you just look at what you have and do something with what you have, because the only servant that got chastised in that story was the one who did nothing.
yeah.
And he didn't measure the one who did less to the one who did more. He didn't compare them. He only looked at the one who did nothing and
Mm,
said, you should have done something. So, I think we have to be careful too about comparison, especially with social media, because we'll look at other moms and we're looking at their homes and we're looking at their vacations and we're looking at the fact
mm,
that they have a business on the side, or we're looking at what they're gifted to do and they're creative, and look at how these Instagram reels where and there's one particular lady I know, but multiple women are doing it, where they jokingly say, my husband wanted chocolate. And so they go out to their cocoa bean field in the back and make the chocolate, and, this whole, but the truth of the matter is, we look at other people's gifting and we salivate.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, well, that's just, if I could do. But you have a special sauce. You
Mm,
literally do. Everybody does, because there is no fingerprint like yours. The problem is, we're just not looking at it. We're
yeah.
looking at everybody else's.
Yeah. You have a quote in your new book from your mom that says, find one thing you like that makes you feel joy. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about. And then camp out there. Now, I would say for you, you've got a lot of camps. You got a lot of tents going. I would, but I do think about how one of your gifts, if I'm going to reflect on you, you didn't ask, but I'm going to, is that you're great at fostering a supportive community. I've
Mm,
gotten glimpses into it going on your sister circle retreat, or when you've invited me into some of your Zoom calls, when everybody's so supportive and shows up with their whole self. Is that something you've always done? Because I could be jealous. I could be like, how's Chrystal doing that? I wish I could do that. But I think you've just noticed that for yourself. You've paid attention and you've leaned into it. Is it
yeah.
only is that one thing that's a gifting, or do you think we all have the opportunity to build that kind of supportive community?
Well, yes and yes. I do think it's a gifting, and I only see that when I look back, because I didn't like for people to be left out. I
Mm.
gathered a group of teen girls together. I went to college. I gathered a group of girls together. I gathered a group of moms together. Yahoo group, Moms Friendship Circle. That's how the sister circle got started, because I had the Moms Friendship Circle first. Yahoo group.
Mom friendship circle.
Yep, because I was like, I wish y'all lived next door and I wish I could come get sugar from you. So since you don't live next door, and it was a group of stay-at-home moms at the time initially, can we just be in each other's next door space? We shared recipes. We went to the farmer's market and bought vegetables in bulk and took turns doing that. We met at the park, just whatever. And so I've done it numerous times in my life. So, yes, that's my story. But also, yes, I think we can all do it, because if I really and truly look at my story, and I think it's just now that I'm looking at it this way, I'm building what I needed, I'm building what I wanted. My reason for doing it wasn't because, well, this is my gift. It's because I wish somebody lived next door. I'm lonely.
Mm.
It's not because this is my gift. It's like, I'm not being consistent about studying the Bible. And so I know, though, if I do it with these other women, I'll finish it. This is my gift. Well, no, not really. It was just that in a tween situation, I was actually on fire for God and thought it was sad that the other girls that I was friends with, they weren't. And I thought, well, maybe if I put a group together, we'll be on fire together. It was always out of a need or out of a desire for myself or for other people. Now looking back, I can go, everybody who feels that doesn't do that. So now I can see that it's a gift, but it's born out of a need, and or a need that I knew I had in one season of my life.
How do you coach people to do it? Because this is technically the Don't Mom Alone podcast, but I do a terrible job of coaching people on how to foster this community. Like you said, look for the need. So
Yes.
if it's a specific, if it's Bible, you want to build yourself spiritually, or it's recipes, or it's just emotional, or friendship, or mahjong, whatever your thing is. And then what?
Yeah. And then, so this is why I have a whole, because everybody asked that question. I have a whole how to build your sister circle, and
Oh.
we've actually in the membership that I have, the inner circle, we create monthly guides. So we are like, we know you don't know what to do.
Mhm.
So here are podcasts to watch. Here are questions to discuss. Here's a recipe to make. Here are activities to do, whether it's you with a friend, you with a group, we give you different activities. Here's a scripture verse to memorize. Now go do this. And where do you do it? Well, that's what the guide tells you. Here's how to invite them. Here's language to text. Here's like
Oh, that's
it's
so helpful. I'm the person
yeah.
who's like, "What do I text? I don't know."
Yeah, we
Okay.
spelled it all out because people would, ask that question all the time. And I think though, there's so many I just assume people didn't need help with that because in my world, there's the magical 6-week Bible study, right? And you've turned to the back of the book. A lot of them will say how to start, what is a leader to do, and I just thought, well, anyone who's struggling can do that with the Bible study that they buy. And you and I both know that women want to get together around the Bible for sure, but they want to get together for other reasons. And so if I just want to be intentional, and I think this is key, being intentional with the groups you already have. You don't have to go start a new one. If you walk with a woman or a group of women in your neighborhood, that's your group. That's a potential group. If you're on the PTA, that's a potential group. If you see the same 3 women in the bodybuilding class or the Zumba class or the kickboxing class at the gym, that's a potential group. You don't have to know if they're believers or not. Y'all love the same thing. That's good enough. If your kids are in the same class, that's a potential group. If you have 7 sisters, at least 2 of them out of there. You ought to like at least 2 of them.
You
So
gotta like 1 or
you
2.
gotta like 1
Yeah.
or 2. So I think a part of it is also not feeling the pressure that in order to find your people, which will also
Mm.
help you pay attention, that you have to come up with this new group. Like just look at the people you already have something in common with and choose to build there.
Some sorta overlap. Some sorta
Some
overlap
overlap. Yeah.
that because I remember Jenny Allen saying, and this was really helpful for me, when I was, like, trying to make a group work and it wasn't, and I was frustrated. I'm like, "What's wrong with me?" She said, "Pay attention to who's available."
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, okay, in those spaces, they've already let you know they're available for walks or they're available for the class or they're available for the PTA. Like, they are setting aside time for that thing. So, yeah, I love that. Like, jump off of that, those people. And everybody wants to be invited,
Yes.
but few do the inviting.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to be prepared. It's kind of like this process of paying attention. You have to be prepared for a little hit or miss. And the
Mm,
world is round. So you
okay.
never know when you send an invitation how that comes back to greet you in another season. So if you just do the inviting and don't take it personal, just like everything else in life, often it's a numbers game. If you just invite and just say, my job, and this is what I often say to people. You've probably heard me say this when I've invited you to do sister circle stuff. I'm like, my job is to ask the question. Your job is to know the answer. No pressure. If this doesn't work for you in this season, I just know I'm supposed to ask. And if you go into those situations with that, I'm giving the gift of invitation. It doesn't mean that if they don't take the gift, that there's something wrong with me.
Mm,
Just offer it. And just know if I ask 10 people, 2 might say yes. And that's okay.
yeah.
I might ask 10 and none say yes. So then I go on to the next 10. And here's what will happen you'll get better at asking.
Mm,
So, my 20s, it's rudimentary. I make a list in a Word document. And now there's a whole book of questions. You'll get better at figuring out what the questions are and how to ask. And it'll just make you a better person.
mm.
So, anything you do, investigating yourself or inviting others, if you just keep doing it, it makes you a better person.
Y'all, I am so excited to tell you about this new sponsor because sometimes self care is something that's both practical and irresistibly adorable. That's where Give Hugs weighted plushies come in because they're not just cute. And we have a turtle who is the most adorable. He is the ultimate cozy companion. He is perfect for relieving stress, for my kids after school, or soothing cramps for me. Here's how it works. Basically, this deep touch pressure, the hugs is filled with these non-toxic glass beads, and it's kind of like how a weighted blanket works. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, so it soothes you and it comforts you and it relaxes you, and you can heat your hugs up in the microwave, and you can also put them in the freezer. When my son had his wisdom teeth out, he would put it in the freezer and just kind of hold it up closer to his face, and it just, I don't know, there's something about, he's the perfect size, y'all. Whether you are treating yourself or you're looking for a thoughtful gift for someone special, please check out these heatable, coolable plushies that you can hug and hold on to. Go to Give Hugs, and it's with a Z, HUGZ.co. That's CO. Use the code DMA, and they're going to give you an exclusive 20% off your first order. So that's Give Hugs with a Z.co. Use the code DMA for 20% off your first order. Trust me, you're going to want one for you and maybe one to share with your kids. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, maybe you've been listening to Chrystal's story and you are identifying with that feeling of being stuck. Maybe you've been numbing out in your motherhood or in your work, and you've been using coping mechanisms that are just not healthy for you, and you're wanting to process with someone. Perhaps you've never even tried therapy, or you have in the past, but you don't know where to start now. And I find sometimes with therapy where there's just such a strong barrier to even getting it going. And I want to remove that barrier by introducing you to a great option, which is called BetterHelp. What is great about it is it's fully online, so therapy becomes affordable and convenient. They serve over 5 million people worldwide. They have a network of over 30,000 credentialed therapists. You can switch therapists anytime. You just find a therapist that matches you, and you schedule on your time. If it's during nap time, if it's before kids get up, if it's after, there is a way to find a person to process life with. And so you can get the support that you need. Discover that gift of you. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/DMA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DMA. Within the group. So maybe you can gather, but you're like creating that environment that's supportive. I
Yeah,
think people follow the leader. So what have
correct.
you found is a supportive posture? Like how do you do that? Is that again a gifting? Like you're just gifted at supporting people, and so then they return the favor, or
No, because I actually I am a very, I mean, you know this about me. I'm a deep person. If I'm gonna talk to you, set aside 3 to 4 hours because we're gonna cover from top to bottom, from left to right, flip you inside out, guttural, we've been in those places. But I don't know that I do a great job of maintenance support. And so one of the things that I've noticed is, again, what I don't get that I would like, or what people have either given me, and I'm like, that's good. I should just do that. Like, I should just learn from that. Or frankly, what I've learned because I've hurt people, that they're like, well,
Mm.
you just weren't calling. And I'm like, why didn't, I mean, like, that happened honestly in the season of raising children, where certain friends who weren't in the same season, you feel that disconnect. And it's like, it's not about you. I got 3 hours of sleep last night. I don't even know what day it is. So all three of them have taught me, but I would say, just to give some practical examples, texting is great. It's great. And you can do that. You can set a reminder. There were a group of women who I literally had a reminder on my phone. It was the same message. I would copy and paste the message, and I would just say, hey, it's Friday. How was your week? Just checking on you. Half of them
Wow.
didn't respond, but it was just, I wanted to do that consistently. Right now, I send birthday cards
I
to a
know.
lot of people.
You're so
A lot of
sweet.
people.
Well, I'm one of the lot, so thank
I
you.
know. And I mean, it's not that many. It's just the
Well,
people who
good,
I
because I
always
wanna
want
feel
them to
special.
know. Yeah, it's not that many. I always want them to know they're on my mind. And if there's no other time at their birthday, I'm thinking about them. And I mean that when I say that, because I realized it made my heart feel good when someone just texted to check on me. And it made my heart feel good when someone sent me a birthday card. I opened up all those bills, but there was actually a card in the mail.
Mm.
So it's kind of been this revolving circle of learning because I needed it, learning because someone did it for me, learning because I hurt someone's feelings, learning because they hurt my feelings. So maintenance would be text, cards. I think if you're a card person or you like getting that, just order a box of cards from Amazon, like blank cards from Amazon. Keep 3 or 4 different flavors because they're not that expensive. And then when someone comes to mind, keep 3 or 4 in your purse. When someone comes to mind, you're in the pickup line at school. When someone comes to mind, you're sitting with a few minutes before church. Someone comes to mind, you're sitting there rocking the baby, but your purse happens to be right there. You got one hand nursing. Pick it up and just write in, excuse my bad handwriting, nursing the baby, love you, thinking about you. Put a date in. I mean, so just those are 2 practical ways to just easily do that. But I want to say this number 3 because I think it matters. Pick up the phone and call. Now, I know we live in a texting world. Text them and say, do you have 5 minutes? I just want to hear your voice.
Mm,
Our friend Chandria does that. She'll
mm,
call and I'll be like, what's going on? She said, nothing. I just wanted to hear you. I just wanted, or she
mm.
stopped by and she'll say,
You done that.
hey, yeah. And
You do
just,
that.
yes, I have. Hi, Heather. You're like,
I'm at
hi.
the Apple store again.
That's what it is.
Not the Apple's like a phone. Anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'm stopping by and I'm
Yeah.
literally like, I'm here for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
She taught me that because I was like, she said, I just wanted to lay eyes on you. I
That's
wanted
so
to see for
nice.
myself that. So when you have people in community, it doesn't have to be a big deal. You don't have to have a charcuterie board. You don't have to have what is it? Soup and sip or something. There's a new thing I saw this fall.
What?
Yeah, it was like a thing where everybody makes a soup and you soup and see, like see which soup you like or something.
Oh, no.
Listen, it doesn't have to be like
We
pressurized.
women like to make things more complicated. I tell you
We
what.
do. We
But no,
do.
I think it goes along with your very, very first point, the pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention to when other people do something supportive and put
Mhm.
it in your little toolbox.
That's right.
And yeah, and notice that it mattered to you. And now it may not like for others, but I think
Yeah.
that's good. That's insightful for yourself. When you have a group like one of your sister circles, do you set rules on engagement? Like, hey guys, we're not going to invite. Like when I'm in these processing groups, life teams, and things, we have
Yeah.
rules because
Because you
it's
have done your fair share of groups in life. I just want to
yeah.
say
Well,
that.
because a lot of it's based on 12 step, and in a 12 step,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
definitely some like structure, for health reasons. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I've seen that in groups, and I'm just curious, like, to be supportive, have you set out rules for people?
So in the inner circle, we do because these are women that are coming from all different places, and I wouldn't even say we set out rules as for what not to do as much as we're clear about what we are doing. So like we'll gather on a Sunday night in a Zoom call and break people up into groups, and it's to go over these questions, or if we're doing a book study or what have you. But when I'm giving women the guide, like I'm not saying don't do this, don't do this. It's like be loosed. In personally though, the group of women that I have been in community with ebbs and flows throughout life, we don't have rules because we've been friends for 30 years. Now we've had to communicate with each other along the way. Like we've had to get to know each other in new seasons, but it hasn't been rules. Now, BSF, we still have rules. I'm still doing BSF and there are rules and I'm not mad about it. I think it depends on the group and it
Yeah.
really depends on what you're there for, how long you've known them, how you've come together. I think you can decide, again, by paying attention, where there may have been trip ups or problems and say, because I've experienced this before, I'd prefer if we not talk about this. I'd like for this group to be about this, not about this, because I don't want us to get sucked into politics or, doctrinal differences. Like we're here to lift each other up as moms and talk about, or, share a shared reading habit or whatever. If you're starting the group, it's like you're building a family. You can have your family rules and your group rules. I say make it what works for you.
Yeah. I think that's good. The paying attention again. Yeah, what didn't go well? I was in a group and this happened and I don't want that to
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm.
There's the one that takes over the whole group.
That's right.
Kinda like
Always.
share the chair, like share the time.
Yep.
Have an acorn that we pass. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. You can over guide and over rule. I think you're amazing. Sadly, we have to wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to say to a mom who's maybe in a real stuck season and circumstances have just kind of shut her down? Like any kind of hope message
Oh,
you
yeah.
could give her?
I want to say if you have one child or 10 children, you gave birth to somebody who had a completely unique set of DNA, fingerprints, personality, but that person came from you.
Mm,
You had the power not only to give the gift of physical life, but to give the gift of unique mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual gifting as well. It came from you. So that means that even if you feel a little empty, that is not true. Even if you feel a little black and white, no, you're giving colors of the rainbow here. Even if you feel a little bored, that the beautiful baby that you look at, or your 2-year old or your 10-year old that keeps you on your toes, that came from you. So refuse to believe the lie that there is nothing special about you. It's simply a matter of you paying attention and agreeing with God about what He already said, which is when you were in your mother's womb, He was knitting you together in a very unique way. I have this little saying that I've had since Karis was born. Somebody gave it to me and it has been riddled over time. It's all torn up, but I still have it on the wall. It said, God danced the day you were born. Someone gave it to me to give, to put in her room. And I believe that God danced the day you were born because He saw the beauty in you. The only thing that is needed is for you to believe it, for you
mm.
to agree with Him enough to discover it, for you to pay attention to it, and then just to sit back and trust God that no matter what, He is working all of the things that seem random to you together. Just be faithful to walk through the discovery process, believing that that beautiful life you gave also is currently in you.
Yes. Amen. Amen and amen. And I feel like we could have a whole nother recorded conversation on helping advise the mom who's trying to balance it all, because
Oh,
that
yeah, because
she may
that's
have
the issue
discovered
there.
herself, but she's also trying to do all the things. And if that's you right now, you are not the only one. But I think that today's conversation is like, pay attention to what's working, pay attention to where your joy is, and there's probably a lot of things you can let go of that are causing more stress than they need to. And so, Chrystal, thank you for joining me. And yeah, we're going to make our phone call, or we're going to make our in-person convo, because I need more Chrystal.
Listen, I always need more Heather. Always.
You're the best. You're the best. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right. So we're going to take Crystal's advice, and we are going to pay attention, whether it's through journaling, whether it's therapy, whether it's coffee, reading, taking classes, whatever it is that you use to help you notice what lights you up, what gives you life. And then we are the Don't Mom Alone community. So what's one thing or one invitation you can put in your calendar to do this week, or even just start with one little thing. Ask God to open your eyes to see who around you is someone that He has placed in your path. And I'm telling you, whenever I've encouraged women to do that, to just pray and say, God, who do you have for me? I want to connect more with others. I've had people say, oh my goodness, once I did that, people started showing up. And I think it's more just the spirit in us, the willingness. It gives us eyes to see what was already there, but I don't know, like we're partnering with the spirit in a way. So I just encourage you to do that. I'm going to pray over us right now, wherever you are, and finding that purpose and that hope. Lord, I pray that for the person who's listening right now, who has lost a little of their spark, that life has come in and it feels like taking them off the path you had for them, that you would give them eyes to see that this is not a detour, but they are exactly where you want them to be, to partner with you. They could see the gifts that they carry with them in whatever season, whatever circumstances that you have wired into them, that you would enlighten those things to them, and right in this moment that they would remember the girl that they were is the girl that they are, and that you would help them uncover that. We pray that purpose, although sometimes can feel nobody sees, that you see purpose by her being all of who she is, right where she is. And I pray, Lord, that you would help us make the community that we desire, whether it's one or two people, whether it's going deeper with people we are already associated with, that we would take the little bit of risk, get the text going, gather together around your word or around a common interest, and that we would not numb out and miss out on the good things that you have right here for us, that we would pay attention, open our eyes to see. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, y'all. Thanks for joining me. I always love a good conversation with Chrystal. She's so wise. If you've never looked into anything she has written or done, or when she's been on the show before, definitely go do that. And I will see you back here next week. Adios.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Don't Mom Alone podcast. If you're wanting to connect with more people and more resources to help remind you that you're not alone, head over to don'tmomalone.com. That's where you'll also find show notes with any links mentioned by our guests. Most importantly, I want you to know the good news, the great news that you're not alone because God has promised to always be with you. With faith in Jesus Christ, the one who died for you and rose again, Jesus said when he left, he was going to leave a helper, a comforter, to be with us. God in us. Moms, that's superpower. So while you're washing dishes at your kitchen sink, while you're driving to and from work, while you're feeding that baby late into the night, while you're cleaning sticky floors, God promises to be just as present with you as when you're worshiping in a church pew. As it says in Zephaniah 3:17, the Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He takes great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love, and he will rejoice over you with singing. Now that's good news. Have a great day.